To be happiest, you should build your career around your strengths and your personality and the lifestyle you want to live. You should cater it to that. You'll be more successful because you'll be able to stick with it for longer.
Welcome to this week's Escape Your Limits podcast. Our guest today is a dynamic chiropractor turned social media influencer. He's the visionary behind moveu, the platform with over 1.5 million followers that merges anatomy, humor, and education to revolutionize pain-free living through movement.
If there's nobody offended, I'm not being bold enough. If you guys can't handle a butt cheek, and how do you ever expect to know the anatomy of the glute? I failed at about 8 businesses before moveu. I wanted to be the best in the world at something. And it still drives me today, maybe to a fault. Most people think they need strength. Second, they think they need mobility. They need fucking awareness.
Please enjoy this week's episode with Dr. Mike Wasilisin.
Dr. Mike, thank you for joining us in Newport Beach.
Matthew, it's kind of hard to turn it down up here. Thanks for having me.
I followed you for a while, and I realized I was also following you and your wife on social media, and particularly through the pandemic, I used to watch these videos, and they were very risque.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of wondered, there were certain people that you seemed to seriously offend.
Oh yeah. Honestly, if I'm not offending people, if there's nobody offended, I'm not being bold enough. I'm not. If it's like dead quiet, everyone's all supportive, I'm like, where did I go wrong? And I don't even think I pushed it yet. It's like a frustration though, because like when we're in school, I'm literally pulling on cadaver penises, right? We're like cutting things open, spreading buttholes, looking in, like people are going in my butt. So like whenever I have my wife or a guy in like a thong and we show the glute, I'm like, guys, this is nothing compared to my school I went through. If you guys can't handle a butt cheek, and how do you ever expect to know the anatomy of the glute if you can't see it? If there's pants over it, the pelvic floor, how will you ever truly understand if it's covered? You can't. To know, full exposure is the best way to know. And sometimes we come pretty close for that.
Yeah, you do. I like well, I'm not saying I like the butt one, but I found the butt one quite interesting where I didn't sort of know what that looks like. And you're very good at your, what do you call it? Like body art?
Anatomy art.
Anatomy art.
Yeah.
So who does that?
We have a few artists actually. Here's what I tell you about anatomy artists, okay? They're like butterflies. They kind of fly in and then they fly to Costa Rica and then they disappear. They're wonderful. Artists are their own breed. So it's kind of hard to have one. So we have multiple artists. And hopefully whenever we need someone, one of the butterflies is in town and they'll come over and, it takes a few hours to paint. It also creates some challenges because if you think about it, to set up an artist, to set up a model, you've got to pay the model, you got to pay the artist. And it also kind of rules out organic content with my clients because when you're doing the art, you've got to play, because then you have all the art done. Well, we got to make the most out of this art. So we got to do 15, 16 videos in a day to make the most of this art. So these become like, when you see one day like that, you're talking a full day of planning, you're talking 4 hours of art, then more planning, then you've got 12 hours of shooting videos and photos and assets, and you're like, that's all. So when you see art, you're seeing like 16 videos in a day.
It's quite impressive. For those of you that can't imagine or listening to an audio, I'd recommend checking out your moveu Instagram page, and you'll get to see what we're talking about. But it is quite impressive, and I wonder if you've got these body art people because somebody is really giving them some specifics about where the muscles are. So you take someone that's an artist, and then you're basically working closely with them to get everything in the right place.
In a way, at first, it's like almost like a coloring book, right? I'm providing the lines and they color it in. But they do more than color. I want to give them a lot of credit because they can draw. They put the color palette, they can put shadows on it. But ultimately, yeah, like I don't have anybody who's has experience in anatomy. I have artists. And so I teach them the anatomy and I go, okay, it starts here, it ends here, does this, the muscle fibers move this direction. But over time, we have one like Macy. She's a wonderful artist. She's been with us for like 2.5 years, but she's really good. Like she does it all. She does a lot of it by herself now because we duplicate some art sometimes too. Sometimes if we know the glute does well, we'll do the glute every 6 months or something like that. Maybe different colors, different fibers, different sizes. And so, you know, she gets really good after time. So it starts off with, it's helpful. Like there's actually biomedical artists that exist. They're hard to find, but those ones come in knowing the anatomy and the art together.
Yeah, that's a special breed.
That's a tough combo. You got to go to a big city for that. Like New York City, they're around there.
When I think about your brand, I think about the body art, the humor, and the education. Where did that idea start? Because it's pretty distinctive for you, and to break out in the social media world isn't easy. So
No.
it's genius, really, in some respects. But where did that start, and how did the idea evolve?
Really good question. I'll give you the medium-winded answer of that one. Okay, so I started making videos for YouTube in 2008, 2009. I was making, and I actually taught kinesiology at California State University, and I put a lot of my lectures, and I'd actually record parts of it and put those on YouTube. They're still there. I look at them now and just utter embarrassment. I'm disheveled, my language, But it always reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It was from one of the LinkedIn founders. He goes, "If you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've launched too late." And I always remind myself of that. So there was a frustration. I was in healthcare, right? I'm a sports chiropractor by background. I've been in the profession since the year 2000. Got licensed in 2009, moved to Cali, built up a practice 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, along the way, building a practice, just like any business, there's some frustrations that exist. There's some challenges, like you see things that aren't working in the system. Particularly my issue was the healthcare, being underneath the umbrella of healthcare. Like I existed because I built insurance, I did personal injury cases. Like I was under that umbrella. I did take cash, but I saw problems that existed within that. Primarily because I would see somebody that came in and like back pain. And then I'm like, let's say they were severe pain, they want to play basketball again, but there'd be pitfalls that they didn't know existed where I would lose them in their care. I'd lose them. There'd be issues with copay, there'd be issues with insurance verification, them going on vacation. And so this was in like 2015. Now, I don't know if you followed me way back then, but I had a previous model on there. His name was Andrew, and he was a student of mine at California State University. He was a teacher's assistant and an intern. And so I trained him, and we had a good dynamic on film. And I forget how it all started, but I remember we decided we were going to start making some Instagram videos. This was 2000 and end of 14. We're going to start making some, only 15-second videos were allowed at the time. And what do I know how to do? I'm like, okay, I know my strengths. I got charisma and I have humor. I got those things. I think my good looks too, but that's, questionable. But I got those. And so I felt confident with my knowledge too. There's a Lady Gaga quote. They go to her, they ask her, Howard Stern goes, how do you know, like, when do you know to take the leap? Like, when do you know, like, when are somebody ready to take the leap? And she goes, when you have the nerve. And I remember that because I look back, I'm like, I had the nerve. And so I just made a video and it was like 15 seconds. It was me teaching and Andrew modeling. And I don't even know what was over. It was like pelvic tilts or something. And I pointed and it did well. And it gave me some energy. Now, not too much though. Remember, I still had a practice at the time. So I had a practice and I started making videos. About 6 months into this, there's growth. We're growing on social, but I still don't see a future with it. It's just fun. But something happened about 5-6 months in. One of my videos, it was this stretch. It's crazy. It was the QL stretch. I call it the greatest QL stretch in the world. I'm not going to ever say I invented anything, but I'd never seen anybody else teach this stretch. It was actually so powerful a stretch. My whole logo of my business, Cali Spine, was a graphic of that stretch. So it just so happened that this stretch, I made a video on it, and a company called MMA Leach, a Facebook company, shared it. They had about 1 million followers at the time. They shared it on their page on Facebook, and it had 4 million views in like a week. And I remember going, I'm like, oh, like people, this can go big. And I remember telling the team, this was crazy. This is like one of these moments of time that I try to recreate it. And I told him, like, we're going to go online in 1 year. We'll be completely online. And I swear it was like 1 year and 4 days. It was in the journey to get there. It was unbelievable. It was just like the universe. It was God. It was energies. It was force fields. fuck it was. But then at that point forward, then the whole mission, it became, okay, now on the back end, see patients 40 hours a week, then build a website after that. Okay, what's our product going to be? It's going to be a program. Build out the program. Okay, how are we going to enroll people in this thing? Try this. We tried one way, completely failed. Then we decided the webinar model, and that worked. So it was like build it and then launched it in like December or something like that. And it was like pretty flatline growth at first. And then we figured out a way to really enroll people in through webinars. And off we went to the races. I remember the first webinar, we had 40 people, one person enrolled. First of all, I was so nervous. I slammed tequila before the webinar. I was so nervous. I had tequila coming down my face. I was so nervous. I don't drink anymore. Just drugs only for me. But we enrolled one person, like, what? We did it. It was just the classic story. And then, you know, you're good at it. The webinar model end up, but so like your answer your question, it was like, that was kind of it. And then I actually sold my business, my practice, and then really focused exclusively on building moveu to be a full solution online, to really go digital. And that was officially happened in moveu launched in 2016 officially, fully online June 2016. And it's been highs and lows since then, and we're on the up and up right now.
The wait is over. Our new Escape Fitness catalog has landed. This is the essential guide to all of the latest product innovations that are shaping the future of functional training. Bigger and better than ever, this year's catalog is 190 pages, jam-packed with everything from eye-catching, bespoke functional training frames to some of the latest strength training equipment. So sign up today to receive the digital version today, or be one of the lucky few to receive a hardbound printed copy straight to your door. So what are you waiting for? Go to escapefitness.com now.
What made you decide to move from the physical practice? Because before you came on, you mentioned that you might be going back and doing some face-to-face stuff again. So at that time, why did you, I guess you must have trained for quite a while to do that. You probably didn't, my guess is you didn't train to be an online course and social media star, but tell us a little bit about that story.
That's a good one. Okay, so I've actually wrote this all down because there's some things in my life that have happened and I go, I want to recreate that. Like, how? And I write down all the steps. Like what was the big boom? What led up to it? What happened afterwards? How can I recreate that one? But at the time, okay, so I didn't know I wanted to go online, but this was like a year before. This is so silly. It's like I was on, someone goes, hey, we're going up to Price is Right. Do you know Price is Right? Do you know the show?
Game
show.
Yeah, game show.
They go, you want to go? They go, they interview people and they choose. And when I heard that, I go, they'll pick me 100%. And so I went up there and they sure as shit picked me. And I went up on stage with I can't forget his name, Drew Carey. But afterwards, and I just remember going, I felt elated on the stage. Like I felt like new heights. I felt like alive. But then at the time, so we have this thing where I kind of like had this growing thing going, oh, like the camera, it brings something out of me.
I could tell that.
It brings it out of me. Now, combine that with something else from a personal standpoint. Fuck the business, fuck my mission, all that stuff. Can I swear?
You can do what you want.
Okay, good. I wanted more freedom in my life. Like I'm adventurous. I love to spearfish and take 2-3 week trips to go hunting and free diving in the ocean and go to Fiji. I'm going to New Zealand in a month for a couple weeks. But look, here's the thing whenever you have a practice. If you have a practice, your only real way to scale that is you have to hire more chiropractors and PTs so that they can do the job and you can leave. I was never really good at that. I was beating myself up for a long time though, because I thought I was just failing because I saw some of my buddies really succeeding with that route. I just thought I was a failure. I go, man, why am I like, I'm not motivated. I'm lazy. I now know that I just wasn't in the right lane. But my point is that when I would go on these trips, let's say I was doing a spearfishing trip in Mexico for a week, which I did in 2016. In 2016, I go and I met one of my best friends today. His name is Max. Max is an entrepreneur. He like does this crazy outdoor lifestyle. He does whatever he wants when he wants. The cheapest part of every vacation for me is the actual cost of vacation back then. Shutting down my practice for a week was always the most expensive part of it. And so you're like losing money on both ends. You're paying and you're losing. And so I just came back from that trip in 2016. It was a spearfishing trip after I met my buddy Max. And I just go, I want freedom in my life. Like and this is 20, so I'm already growing. Yeah, we're growing on social media time. I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I want to do this for my own personal freedom. So I got my own personal freedom. Then number two, I was so boiled up with frustration over the healthcare system, them simply trying to manage people. Manage. That's the saddest word. Imagine your client comes in, as you trainers out there going, yeah, I'm this way. I'm a little overweight. He goes, let's help you manage that. Fuck management. Fix your shit. Fix your shit doesn't exist in healthcare. It's always like, nurture the symptoms, baby. You're just getting older. It's going to be that way. I don't believe in that for anybody. I believe that there's a way out for everybody. I believe that everybody has it in them to live a pain-free life. Everybody. I don't give a shit about your diagnosis, what you've been told, what your MRI said, what the surgeons told, how many surgeons you have. You can overcome. There's people that are in worse situations than that person that have overcome that. Why can't you? And so I had that combination of freedom in my life, want a big mission, and I felt like I had the personality to deliver it too. So I think those two things were like the big fuel for me to like those two together really fueled my like push forward with getting this baby off the ground.
When did the other, because I heard there was a couple of business failures. One was some kind of beef jerky or something. Like was that sort of after the practice or before then?
I failed at about 8 businesses before moveu. One of them was a beef jerky. It's called Dr. Mike's Jerky. Oh my God. By the way, I'll give it to you. I make the best jerky on the planet. I use really fatty meat and it's got to stay refrigerated. And it's just like, it's so good. But the problem is it's so good that we ate all of our profits. We would just make jerky. And then we would drink whiskey and eat the jerky and try to figure out how we're going to sell it. But at the end of the night, we had no jerky left. And we're like, let's try it again next week. And next thing you know, we ate it all and drank it all. So we had no money to put into it anymore. So that went under. We realized that we didn't want a jerky business. We just wanted to eat jerky and drink whiskey. So that went down. I had this loophole with gun parts I was going to make.
Oh, what was it?
Gun parts, like parts for a firearm.
Okay.
Like with, that never really took off. An online dating company. I actually got kind of far with that one.
Where did that come from? Was that a passion, I guess, at the time?
So I'm single, right? And this was like, I was at some seminar in it's actually, by the way, for anyone out there, this is still a fucking fine idea. So I was out there, it's a little controversial, you'll see why. But I think most of you guys will like it. So I was at a seminar in like Florida or something, and I was checking out, and there was a line, there was like 100 women, all in their like 20s and this, and I'm like 20s, they're all checking in. I'm like, what are they doing? I asked one, they go, yeah, it's like an international women's nursing convention. I go, what if guys knew where the concentration of women would be? And then I end up looking on things like, you can go on like Playboy. It'll tell you like where the shoots are. You can go on Victoria's Secret. You see where like the things are, the nursing conventions. Like what if there's a subscription where you could like pay and find out where these events, and that way your buddies are looking for a trip. Well, we might as well go to Vegas in June when the hairstylist convention is in there and there's 25,000 women. Why not go then?
Yeah, I can see the logic behind that.
So I went to like this whole pitch fest and then I failed and I realized the problem is I really knew nothing about technology to launch such a thing. But that was just, I was doing that while I had my practice before I started making Instagram videos. I truly thought at one point, I'm like, I'm done with this profession. I was like, chiropractor, I'm like, I'm in the wrong profession. I really thought that I was. And so I was trying to get out of the whole profession. But really, I like, it was like Robert Greene, one of my favorite authors. And he's just like, hey, your 20s should be spent like accumulating skills. Like you don't know how you're going to use them yet, but just accumulate skills. And your 30s is usually the time where you find something that hits and all of your skills you've learned come together as one. And that really happened to me when I started making videos. I go, oh, because I've always loved comedy. And I like making people laugh. I got that. I did that. I have this stupid skill I paid $300,000 for all this anatomy, all this knowledge. I just pay fucking use it. So I combined that with that. And I got the comedy, I got this, and then the freedom of my life now to make like an online company. It really came together when I was about 34 years old. And it kind of makes sense. Phil Knight has a similar quote with the founder of Nike. He talks about, hey, and I recommend people in their 20s, they don't try to find a career or a job. They find their passion, even if they don't know what that means, to search for it. He goes, the The lows will be easier to bear and the highs will be like nothing you've ever felt. And so I look back at some of those quotes and I always reference those quotes. That's the book Mastery by Robert Greene, and that's the book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. But like, I could see it now looking back. But in your 20s, you're like, I need to find my career and like grow. Man, I'm like, what the hell's the rush? Like, I look back at my 20s, I'm like, am I just getting degrees and accumulating knowledge? Why? What was the rush? That's why I'm a hard time recommending like chiro and PT school where these people just graduating undergrad. I go, how do you even know? You spent $300,000 in 4 years because you think you want to do it? That's stupid. If you want to know what's like being a PT or chiro, go work for one for a couple years. Be a personal trainer. Being a trainer is like 80% of being a PT. You got to go to the place. There's people that come in the office, like MD, orthodontist, trainer, doctor. Like it's closer together than people think. I think people are closer. They're fighting it, but it's just, you got to go to a location. People show up to see you. You see them for 30, 40 minutes. Does that lifestyle fit your personality? And I think it's so important about like, I think what happens is these professions is like, we go in these professions because we want to help people. I want to help. And that's usually a good thing. Medical's community really fucks that up for people. It starts skewing people towards money. They lose all rationale about their morals and ethics. But what happens is you do so much for other people. And there's a point you go, what about me? What about my life? Fucking miserable. My life is important too. It's like they do it only for others at first, which is so noble, but it catches you.
What was your driver then? Like, was it to, because you had these other businesses, my guess, was it just like the gun business, the dating, the jerky? Were you more interested in getting involved in something that you were passionate about, or were you trying to find a way where you can actually make money to do some of the things you wanted to do?
Well, it's good question. I'm pretty passionate. I've got hardcore ADHD. I mean, if anybody is true ADHD, you're looking at them. So I can easily gravitate to new things. I get really excitable about things. And so it's a strength and it's also a challenge. It's like my dog Cap, he's a golden retriever. He will get that ball. It's amazing. But if you throw the ball over a busy street, he will run right into cars with it. So it's like managing your own, at least he has a leash. I don't have no leash on him. Well, my wife tries, but it's retractable. She can't retract me back. There's no retraction. But what was the question?
Well, yeah. What was the driver? What's been the driver for you? Is it the financial thing? No. Is it the passion? Because the other businesses, they were quite random. It was like you're searching to do something. What was the reason? And is that still a constant to where you are today? Would you say?
Well, I when I grew up, the only person I really like with a career that I ever idolized, like, I love my family. I look at my family now, like my dad. And I just look at like his values. Like, I aspire to have so many of his values. Like, he has like his trustworthiness, his loyalty to family, amazing. I didn't have a career model per se. I grew up in a little town in Ohio mostly. The local chiropractor was the best I knew. I'm like, this guy, I used to deliver pizzas to him, and he'd answer the door in underwear, whitey tighties, and a cowboy hat. He'd always have cute girls in there. I'm like, and he had a nice house, a nice car. I'm like, this is cool. And so like, that's kind of all I had. But at the time, there was Tiger Woods for me. And to me, he was the best. I saw in his eyes. And it's like, since then, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best in the world at something. And it still drives me today. Maybe to a fault, Maybe like it's this constant striving. Like, it's hard for me to like be comfortable presently striving for the next level. But I don't feel like I'm done. And I feel like I have a lot of levels up. Though I do feel like a little, not stuck, but I'm going through some oil right now. I'm walking through it. But I've been through that before. I know how to get out of it. So I think when I see Tiger be the best, I wanted to be the best at something. I wanted to take something big scale, big time. High levels, new heights. And it wasn't enough for me. Like, I missed like my pro athlete days. Looking back, I probably could have been a really good rower. I never had that in high school. I was like, damn, I'm a good rower. But I didn't have the athlete stuff. And so I had like the business stuff. And so I think like the thing for me, it's like to be like the best at something. The best, okay, maybe it should be the best I can be, yes. But also to have the validation of being the best in some sort of a sector at some point in time. And so I'm still not fully, I'm not. Some people are like, they'll do this till they die. You may see me doing movie in 20 years. You might, but you might see me, going back to the jerky again. I'm not sure yet. So you better just get all of me while you can. I don't know where I'm going.
I like the comment about ADHD. I think a lot of us, particularly entrepreneurs, fit into that category. You seem as though you've been able to get it under control and focus for long enough to really get traction in a particular area. How have you been able to get that discipline of saying, okay, well, look, they could, because I'm sure there's people come to you on social media with all kind of interesting opportunities.
Oh my goodness.
That must be tempting not to dive in every single little thing that comes along and stay focused to where
my wife
going.
and my team. I've got to say, those are the greatest. Those two. My wife, she is so much more business savvy than me. I used to I first had aspirations to be like a Steve Jobs, but then I realized I tried to be that in my first version of moveu, and I sucked at it, and I kind of left what I was good at doing to try to be something I was only ever going to be a C- at anyways. And then so I realized quickly that wasn't me. And then my wife also taught me. She came into moveu, and she was like more business savvy than I would ever be. She was 26 or 7. I go, okay, not my forte. But so she really has a way of helping me keep focused. But the thing with focus, the challenge is this: focus also can equal boredom to me too. And so there's like this for me, there's this line of like staying focused and growing what we have versus adding new things in there. Like we just recently I decided to add, and I kind of did an executive decision on this one, didn't really get approval. We'll see how it turns out. But I did launched we have a machine learning posture piece of technology, free posture assessment on the website. You stand up, it puts your lines on you, puts measurements, serves as a before photo and then after. But like that was a side project. Like it's like my focus really, my membership is only a year old. So keeping that thing moving really is like the bread and butter at what I do. But I have I've got my Fabby, she's my assistant. I have 2 assistants. Fabby is so good at I trust her. She's one of my assistants that keeps me focused. Z is my director of operations. She's so good at that too. And my wife, it's really those 3 primarily that help remind me of the team that we built, their goals, not distracting them, not ruffling feathers with that. So it really is the people around me for the focus part. But for myself, I think the focus part, staying on it is, there's daily practices that are helpful. Cold plunging, my breathing stuff, daily movement stuff, that's helpful. I think I'm missing something there. I'm gonna pop my mind a little bit. But really, it's the first spot that came to mind, there's people around me, and I had to assemble them there because I'm so bad. The worst thing, time and dates, this human construct is the most frustrating aspect of my existence. Putting things on a date and a time, and then you do time zones. Oh my God. I went the other week, I was in Seattle. I showed up to get a rental car. I booked the rental car on the wrong month. Unfortunately, I learned at the rental car place, if you just kind of slip them a 20 and say, I hope you're having a good day, you should take care of your problems, which she did. And by the way, I just booked things in the wrong time, the wrong date, the wrong months. But putting the people around me, and it's kind of hard when you're starting because you don't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
You can't afford it.
Yeah.
You got to just basically just not suck for long enough to get your head above water to hire people in there. So I think it's the people around me is really the answer.
Have you learned that if you can stay on track and have that discipline, have you been able to demonstrate that does move you forward in the right direction pretty efficiently compared to times when you think that you've dotted all over the place?
It depends on the product for me so far. So I have 2 parts of moveu. I have moveu 1.0, I have moveu 2.0, and moveu 3.0, 3 separate phases of moveu. Moveu 1.0 was completely out of control for me. I just hired everybody under the sun. I just hired whoever, no job descriptions, no deadlines, no quotas, bring everybody on. And it ended up being an absolute clusterfuck. And literally I exploded 70% of the company. So that was 1.0. 2.0 was after that, where we didn't have I wasn't proud of our product. It was disconnected. So your question was staying focused. Well, my team might get on me for this, but I say my team's like, no, we need to stay focused on this product. But I knew in my gut the product wasn't solid enough for me to stay focused on. So now 3.0, I spent 2 years building this methodology, assembling, thinking through every nook and cranny I could think of, making the videos, putting an Android app, putting an iOS, building a community with it, putting the right people in place. So now I'm confident enough. I'm confident this product has a 5-7 year life on it without much adjustment from now. There was always improvement. But I do think that like it's the entrepreneurs also gut intuition and statistics go like the focus, there needs to be, at least from my aspect, a product. The product side needed to be solid.
But that must have taken focus as well, because like I know what's involved in doing similar types of things, and that's a constant, like you got to keep getting your head down and sticking with the plan and just moving until you've done it.
It's not my strength. It's not my strength. No, my strength is like definitely ideating and like getting something built and excitement. Maintaining anything is not. I'm very bad at that. So that's why right now I'm like getting this product moving that we have, and I am looking into other opportunities right now to expand into, because yeah, like some people are just good. I think some people are just like these grinders. These people are just like, I've met people, they'll repeat the same thing over and over until they die because it's comfortable for them. I get bored with that. I know there's a good book. It's called Life of a Serial Entrepreneur, Why I Can't Stop Starting Over. A really good title by Stuart Scorman. But I'm relatable to him, but I think I'm more focused than him. But you're asking a really good question. It's almost like when to stay focused on something versus when you realize that you should branch out and add something or do something a little different. Because if you keep doing things different, where's the traction?
And that's the problem. I was listening to Alex Hormozi has some interesting views on this, and he's like, the problem is that you get something started, you get it to a certain stage, and you think, oh, it's not quite right, there's something better. So you go over here, you do the same thing, and you spend your time getting things to a certain level and going back and never actually moving forward, where he said it's very difficult and boring, but if you can stay focused on a particular idea, it doesn't matter whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, you'll just do better than most people because you're able to stay focused, create a good product, and do a lot of the boring stuff. But his view is you got to be the sort of person that can take doing that boring stuff, which I guess is difficult if you're a creative person, because naturally you don't want to do monotonous stuff and that. So it's trying to find a balance of being able to be creative within a particular structure. So you're still moving forward in a single direction, but you feel as though you're still, every day is a different day. And
yes. And also I think the answer to that question as well, for me as well, my wife has done such a good job of helping me build a team around our current product. Because in a way, our main product is, our most valuable asset is our social following. We got like 2 million people across all channels. That's probably the most valuable liquid asset we have. Well, I don't know about liquid. It's not liquid. It's not liquid at all. It's digital. It's digital. You can't even feel it. But then we have our membership as well, which is kind of like the measurement of success. We have like, if it wasn't for that, our social stuff cost, I don't know, a few $100,000 a year to even make all that stuff. And we make it for free. But like, we don't get paid for it. So, the revenue has to come from from a paid product. And I think what's going digital, you got a few options. You either build your own platform, you run ads, or you get sponsorships, endorsements. Like, I think that's really the main three. I decided to build the membership. Looking back and looking in hindsight, it's not the best personality fit for me. It really isn't. I look back and I'm like, if I were to go back and do it over again, I probably just would have focused on YouTube. And just that way I could focus on making content and you flip the switch on ads. Because whenever you decide to build a membership, there's obligations with that membership. Your members have expectations. And it does require, these memberships are, don't be fooled out there, everybody. I'm 8 years deep on 9 years now on building memberships. And so I've had ups and downs and like, you got to always mess with pricing. You've got to figure out who's successful, who's not, your reviews, your email campaigns, your marketing. And so I think the business that I originally built was not a best personality fit for my personality. I think it should have been more, I'm very creative. How can I stay creative and use other tools like ads to bring in? So I don't think I built it from the beginning right for me, though I'm in a good place. So I don't want people to be stunned out there and go, oh, no. Because here's the thing, I'm still in a much better place than I was 8 years ago. I'm happier, I have more freedom, I have more money, I'm making more of an impact. And not in that order. You asked me before, money thing is a very hard concept for me too. Money's like time. I don't even know how much is in my bank accounts. I have no idea. It comes in. I want to have enough money to go on my spearfishing trips, to have a couple toys, to be able to take care of my family, and to like buy like trips and little gifts and things. Like money's real hard for me too. I'm not driven by money. If it wasn't my wife, I'd have almost none. Before Movie 1.0, I literally I created a nonprofit for entitled millennials. I basically, all the money I made, I just gave it back to people. I kept almost none of it at the end, though I made the most then. So, but like, it's like really knowing your strengths is a like, forget entrepreneur business, like as a person. I think it's, looking back, it is like, even my super successful entrepreneurs that are still my mentors, they're always look at me now. They go, yeah, you know what? You get to a certain point and you go, damn, it's kind of like maybe not what it was made out to be. But I really do believe that like it's a person, you got to build your career. To be happiest, you should build your career around your strengths and your personality and the lifestyle you want to live. You should cater it to that. You'll be more successful because you'll be able to stick with it for longer.
I agree. I did an interview with someone about a month ago, and he said that's really what you should strive for, is live your life how you want and figure out a way to make that into a business. And although it sounds very easy, it's quite difficult to actually get those two things in balance.
Sure.
But I suppose if you can do that, then you never really work, and you're actually your mission, your purpose, your financial part, they all come together. But some people, I suppose if you think about artists and musicians and things, that's probably a good example of people that, and sports people, where they've been able to combine a lot of those things.
Yeah, sure. And some people go, you look at maybe people that choose a career and they go, you know what, I'm just going to be miserable for 10 years and make a shitload of money, then stop. That's a hard one for me because I've had issues with my heart growing up. I've been told I was going to die. I lived every night. Couldn't believe I woke up the next day. I've had heart arrhythmia. And that's another motivating factor for me, is because there was no moveu program for heart. I had to figure that shit out on my own. And people are like, I've been pain. I'm like, there's a plan for that. There's a plan for pain. I fucking no plan. There's no plan. I had to figure it out myself. But so I lived like a 5-year period I was told I was going to die in a year. And then they told me they wanted to put a pacemaker and burn all the nerves in my heart. And every night, because I'd have nightmares in my sleep and my heart would go out of rhythm. I thought I was going to die in my sleep and have a heart attack. And I couldn't believe I woke up. So my point I'm making is like, today is like maybe the last day. I just say that mindset. It's like, could be why would I sacrifice 10 years for year 11 when I don't even know if this world is going to be here in 10 years? So that's a hard one for me. Some people do it. They just like defer. They're like frugal. They like live meagerly. And then I go, just whatever. Live now.
I like that. Right. I want to come on to your product and I guess your expertise, or one of your many expertise, I guess.
Beef jerky and
outside of beef jerky, yeah. So one of the things I was interested in knowing is you talk about mindful movement and positional presence. Explain the meaning of that.
Ooh, mindful movement is not a word I use.
It's not.
No. The mindful movement, I don't think is specific enough for what I teach. So to understand positional presence, you have to first understand joint centration. Now, joint centration, I believe that was the original definition was created by the Prague School of Rehabilitation, I think the 70s. They are an awesome group out of Prague, Czechoslovakia. And they also, I believe, are some of the creators or co-creators of, if you've heard of DNS before, Voita, almost these like neurological development, like connecting the neurological system and movement, almost like returning people back to developmental movement patterns, crawling, laying, like these different. I've actually never taken any of their shit, just so I want to be clear with this thing. I've read some of their books, but the word joint centration stuck with me over 20 years. I heard it once in 2006.
What's it called? Joint
centration.
Centration.
It's the ideal alignment of the joints of the body. It's a position in which the joints, two joint surfaces, are in maximal contact with each other, creating equal distribution of forces. With that joint centration creates a balance of musculature contraction 360 degrees around the joint. And that also creates ligament and tendon equilibrium. It's the holy grail It's the holy grail position for that joint. Now, joint centration is a dynamic movement as well, meaning there is an ideal centrated position for every joint in the body at any given moment. Even if I'm falling off that 5-story building right there, heading to the ground, there is an ideal centrated position of my wrist, my elbow, my arm for me to best absorb that shock. Now, sometimes the force of gravity overcomes the ability of my body to absorb that, fractures, die, but there's an ideal centrated position of every joint in the body at any given moment of time. So now when you take, that's one joint in the body. And now when you combine multiple joints, well, so then positional presence is the state of awareness to the alignment of the joint in the body. Now, the gross overview, people might use the word, they'll often use the word proprioception. You've heard that. It's just like proprioception is like kind of knowing your body where it is in space. But joint centration is, positional presence is the knowledge and awareness of the alignment of your joints throughout space at any given moment of time. And so I ultimately believe that my deepest part of me, this is my experience, and briefly I've taught at colleges, kinesiology. I've had about maybe 100,000 paid members in our program, seen some succeed, some fail. Maybe 20,000 patients in person, seen some succeed, some fail. And the research that I read, the books that I read, I literally, on my morning crap every day, I completed a whole textbook in 6 months. So I'm like, I got my morning read and I got my evening. My evening read is like Anunnaki, extraterrestrials. My morning read is always like research papers. So it's like, now if you combine all that, in my belief, we take the word pain, and pain is very mental, right? It's actually because you have people that are out of alignment. Why do they have no pain? Why do people that have better alignment have pain? So there is pain is ultimately determined by the mind. However, there are statistical correlations of the alignment and different misalignments. There's misalignments that contribute. For example, hip impingement. And I'm getting to I'm answering your question. Hip impingement. The most common one out there here is disc herniation. That's a little more simple. So with the disc in the back, the centrated position of the two, let's just take L5 and S1, the two most common areas herniated, about 95% of the time, I believe, L5 and S1. And so what happens is there is a natural alignment of those joints. And I see the joints, you're talking about just the two little facet joints on the back. There's an ideal facet orientation. Now, those facet joints itself, there's an ideal centrated position for those. And when those facet joints become overly flexed, or you can say rounded for those people out there, and they stay in that rounded position. So so the back would appear, and then there's a cascade effect. It goes L4, L3, the body responds, it usually compromises the whole thoracic, the whole lumbar spine. So now the lumbar spine's in a flattened position. So we can say that joint is overly flexed. That causes chronic compression upon the disc. And some people, based on disc shape, based on anatomy, based on load, repetitions, time, those discs are now more likely to herniate. So my point is that is a decentrated joint. And that exists in that person's life. It often is like an almond and a piece of chocolate. It's frozen in there. They're frozen in that decentrated position. So what I do is help people realign their blood, help them find realignment, help them find joint centration. And whenever they find joint centration, if they're aware of the muscle, the contraction, what it feels like, what it looks like in a mirror, and they could see themselves, and they're aware of that when they squat, they're aware of that when they lunge, they're aware of that when they have sex, low-level awareness. I'm talking awareness where you still, like right now, I'm talking with you, and I'm aware of every joint in my body, some less than others, because I got weak spots too. I'm aware of all my toes gripping. I got external rotation of my thighs. I got my knees in alignment. I got external rotation of my hips. I got my natural lordosis maintained. My scaps are scooped into position. I'm trying to keep a low activation in my thoracic. I got decent chin retraction. I know my head's shifted to the right. I'll shift it back to the left a little bit, but I'm still having this conversation with you, but I'm aware of that. And that is called positional presence. And to answer your question now is that what the world needs, chronic people in chronic pain, they think they need strength. Most people think they need strength. And second, they think they need mobility. They need fucking awareness. They need awareness of the alignment of the joints of their body. I call that positional presence. And the only way to gain that awareness is through activation exercises. You can't strengthen something you're not aware of. Activation, and then strength, and then mobility. So all of these with the intention of realignment, whenever that body is realigned, you can be, I have positional presence now, know that I am out of alignment, but I know that I am, and I know how to return it back. So that state of awareness is what I truly believe.
So that's the first part is having, like, whatever you call it, is being mindful awareness of where you are. Is that kind of where you start with things then, generally, is getting people to just have that awareness?
I
first. Do. Right. Okay.
Well, you got to break through awareness. There's often fear.
Okay.
People don't often go to awareness because people have preconceived notions of what they need. They think they need strength. They think they need mobility. They think then they're afraid of the pain. They're fearful of moving their body. So there's things to break through before we get to awareness. I often don't even really talk about awareness. I'm just teaching them through movements. Right. They get that.
So the idea behind it is generally that you're aiming to get someone to the stage of awareness and consciousness about what they're doing.
Exactly. The alignment of their body.
Okay.
That's the goal. I see training, and this is where I see PTs fail, chiros fail, personal trainers fail, is that they often view that 1 hour workout, either the training or the rehab, like do your hour and then you're good for the day. No, the reason we're doing that hour is we're training for our life. That is only our warm up and our training for our life. That's the way we sit, the way we have sex, when we go and play tennis, when we mountain bike. So those exercises must be done with a much, much greater level of awareness. It's not about the sets. It's not about the reps, though those are important. It's much more important to focus on the quality of the movement, the muscle contraction, the alignment of your body throughout those, so that whenever you stand up and continue your life, you now are present of that alignment, because it's carrying the misalignments with you throughout life. That's what's causing the problems. You're carrying this flexed spine position as you stand, as you have sex, as you sit, as you're bending the wheelbarrow, as you're getting the groceries. Like, you're doing that. That's causing the cumulative trauma.
Coming up next.
Number one cause of disability in the world, back pain. The breath it's the holy grail shotgun, meaning I don't care what the fuck your pain is. You get your breathing right, you're gonna feel better. How do you strengthen something you don't even know how it works? Right. People do not know how muscles work. The number one thing people can do to sleep better is use more pillows.
So is part of that caused by just this unconscious, like, because one of the questions I was going to ask is that, you think of children, obviously a lot of these dysfunctions come from when you're younger, depending on what that is, but you have stuff, and then gradually over time it changes. So is the idea of, as you are younger and grow up, if you have that constant body awareness, then when things start to change, you're conscious of it, as opposed to not being aware of any of this stuff.
Yes.
And then through life, it starts to twist and turn, and then you're in this kind of place you didn't know how you got.
Or people, you hit them with pain, they go, the pain just started. And I look at them like, I can't believe your pain just started. You've been fucked up for 20 years. This shit didn't start yesterday when you picked up a pencil off the ground. The pencil didn't hurt you. You popped out of the vagina. You came out with a suction. Someone pulled you out of the suction cup. That started it. You sat in school for 12 years in just constant unaware position of just chronically tight hip flexor. You stand up, it flips your hips and anterior tilt. You're not aware of that. You played football, wailed your head a few times, made you cockeyed, turned your head sideways. You sprained your ankle. Your weight shifted on your right side. You never even bothered to put it back on the left. It's not like it goes back. Like, you just accumulate these things over time. These body misalignments accumulate. You can say thoughts, traumas, and toxins. It's a super common way to say it. Yeah, whatever. You're a cashier, you're turning to the right, you're a blackjack dealer, you're going left all the freaking time. Your body develops. That's why you get people. I give people reps. I go, okay, we're gonna do this to the right side. They go, I gotta balance that out on the left. I'm like, you ain't balanced now. There's no 50-50. You're not at 50-50. You need 90 over here and 10 over here for 2 years. Then go 50-50. You're not balanced. Who do you think you are?
So you're starting off with this this awareness, and so what would be the connection from your perspective with? So let's say I've got an issue with my hip and my back. You're going to, through what you do, get people to be more conscious and aware of what's going on. Do you then work on like the strengthening and the alignment of things through exercise, or are you looking at the problem and trying to sort of fix that, like when you go to a chiropractor, because I've had a bad back for a long time, managed to get rid of it literally just a few weeks ago after suffering for about 3 years, and I go to the chiropractor and lots of other people, and they kind of fix it and adjust things, and you'll be okay for a while. But it was almost like, this is just something you're going to have to do forever. So how do you approach things once I've got this awareness and consciousness? Do you start with more exercise and strengthening, or do you kind of correct it through different manipulation and things like that?
Okay, so when there's kind of two paths. People see me one-on-one in person, and it's always you're gonna recover. You're gonna find better alignment and feel better in about half the time if you see me in person, because I can now I'll take posture photos, I'll take measurements, I'll take alignment, and I can go, okay, I see the issue here. Like it seems like SI joint pain. SI joint pain usually comes with excessive anterior tilt, which I measured you. You do have excessive anterior tilt. And that anterior tilt is compensated by kyphosis on the upper back. Kyphosis usually goes with protracted scapula, which I see that you do have those. So let's focus. Then we go where to focus on first. We go, how do we focus on this first? And so to answer your one question is I go with this. I go muscle activation first, then we go muscle strength second, and mobility as needed. The only time I recommend mobility for people through the path I teach is if you are unable to perform a strength exercise without pain, or you perform it with limited mobility. You then go to a mobility movement to free yourself up of pain and to get extra mobility, only to go back to the strength movement. Because I believe, and statistically as well, you're going to find longer term relief by adding strength and endurance to how you hold your position throughout the body throughout the day. Where mobility in and of itself is a relatively short term thing, because mobility I don't see the word mobility. When we talk about flexibility, a lot of people still like that word flexibility. It's short lasting. People are like, my shoulders aren't flexible. They do a stretch. I'm like, but your lifestyle doesn't even use your arm over your head like this. When are you even doing this in your life? So you're gonna have to keep stretching forever. Your body's not using that movement. I'm distracted. I'm getting away from the point a little bit. So if someone does see me in person, I can now I've created this methodology, and the methodology I created is built on massive statistics. Number one cause of disability in the world, back pain. Right, and then within back pain, you've got a couple types. You've got disc herniations. You have disc sciatica issues. You have muscular issues. You have joint issues. And so then, second, these are the reasons people enroll. Number one, back statistic. Back
is that the big one?
Yeah.
Back? Right.
Oh, it's everywhere. I mean, it's the number one in the world. So it's going to be the most in pretty much. There's other sports that produce different things, like maybe hockey, a little more ankle, something like that. But overall, it's back. And I know that's why 88% of people enroll is because of back for me. So then you have number two, I think we have shoulder. Shoulder's the most mobile joint in the body. Shoulder impingement is the number one diagnosis. About 88% of the time is diagnosed with impingement. So I look at worldwide statistics. I look at diagnostics. I look at what I see and measure in my practice. And so then I built all these programs based on statistics. Now, if I build it only on statistics, I would fail though, because some people don't meet statistics. And the way I get around that is actually, it creates what I believe is the one of the most powerful ways. It's educational. So I'm not telling people are like, I want a custom plan. Tell me what to do. If I tell you what to do, you never learn what it is. You're missing the most important step. Like, it's to understand your body. And that's only done through education. Education meaning, so I recommend people start in our back and core program, because I've learned before that people still our old program, we've had about 50,000 members in that. It was called Total Body Program. It's everything. Start to finish route, one path. Awesome. Worked every time someone finished it, which was only about 18% of the time. And I learned, damn, I got these societal factors. People go, my shoulder hurts, I want shoulder exercises. My knee hurts, I want knee exercise. It still exists. So what I've created is 5 starting points. The back and the core is called the moveu core brace. Hips and glutes, that's the hip hinge. The shoulder and arm, that's called the scap scoop. The head and neck, called the head pivot. And the knee, ankle, and foot, I call ground force. So 5 starting points. So with back pain, hip pain, I recommend people start with that moveu core brace. Hip impingement, hips and glutes. shoulder pain, impingement, shoulder and arms. Now, each one of those programs is not only built on statistics, but it's built educational. So even if you are anti-statistical with it, you will learn that where you actually, your body, because no one will ever understand your body like you will, and no one will care about it like you. And so, but each one of these programs, what I failed originally was I made them separate. And I see other competitors in the online space. I see their programs. They're disconnected. The back of the core is not connected to the hip. It's a rookie move. Like every movement is connected because the body is entirely connected. The way the core is braced connects with the way the hip hinges, connects in the way the core is, the position of the back predicts the position of the upper back, which predicts the shoulder blade. They're entered, and I don't want to confuse people. I try to make it real simple with only 5 starting points. So you ask kind of like how we guide people in here, because I have maybe tens of thousands of members that have gone through this thing. And so I recommend people start with a problem area, but if they're committed fully to start with the back and the core, the reason is this: our body only moves 7 ways, right? It does, and I always fuck one up. It pushes, it pulls, it hinges, it lunges, it squats, it steps, and it turns. I think I just said 8.
Well done.
Okay, so the center of every one of those, the center of all of those is the core. And when we say the core, I'm talking about from the diaphragm down the pelvic floor. That's what I call the core. It's controversial, whatever. I don't give a shit. People are like, oh, shut the fuck up. This is what I say it is, okay? Tell your audience. Triggered. I get triggered too. So the core is the center of it. So if you're doing a lunge, and your lunge, if you got a hip hiking up in the lunge, well, the core. So I have found that by starting people finding better strength and alignment in their core first, it creates a domino effect throughout the entire body first. Now, that's only people who are committed to a longer term process, or people that have back and core issues. Pain, back, number 1 cause of disability, pain. So I really set these things up statistically and based on functional movement. And so only after you complete the core do I recommend that you now branch to more of your problem area if you're committed. If you're not, if your shoulder hurts, start with the shoulder program. It's still meant for that. I got 2 levels of that, each one's 6 weeks long. Print it all out, follow it along. You will be better if you commit to it and complete it. And we have tools that we built to make sure people are adhesive and cohesive. There's better tools than I ever had in my practice. People always say, I'm going to go see a PT for accountability. I'm like, what is the accountability? If you miss 2 appointments, no, they'll call you twice. PTs, we don't have like all these marketing systems like recall and email campaign. It doesn't exist. Accountability is ultimately within. It is within each person, period. You just got to find ways to know thyself. And we've also created ways to help people be accountable. But I think hopefully it answers your question about how you kind of like all these people pouring in, how do you funnel them into what to do? I want people to get the fastest. I want people to get like the biggest spike of results in the fastest amount of time. And then I got them hooked.
I mean, most cases then, you mentioned the core. In most cases, if I'm not, I don't think it's right to generalize, but I'm going to generalize in this case. But is getting those correct movements and that around the core, is that almost like if it was the Pareto principle, the 80-20, is that where you get a lot of issues that originate from is having a dysfunction in the core and or not?
God, I have the hardest time. I used to really think I was like the origin of things. The longer I do this, the more complex these origins become. I'm just like I had a guy yesterday, he comes in, got right SI joint issues. Usually people that have SI joint issues are going to be an anterior tilt. If you're an anterior tilt, it puts pressure on the joints. If you're in posterior tilt, it puts it on the disc. And so these are the people that carry it. So he's an anterior tilt, statistically, got that. And but why does he have right SI joint? Because if he's just an anterior tilt, it'd be both SI joints. But usually you don't get both SIs, you get one. Now you get the SI, the most common SI, you got anterior tilt plus the high hip side is going to equal because now most of the weight is on that side. So his right SI joint, his right hip's tilted up, he's an anterior tilt. Great. If we just focus on strengthen the QL on the opposite side, it'll pull that hip up. Focus on the oblique on the opposite side, lengthen the high side. That's going to create it. However, I'll often measure leg length. Sometimes one leg is anatomically longer. If his leg on the right side, if his right leg's longer, well, his right hip's always going to be higher. So what, the issue's not in the core there, then the core of the issue isn't in the core. So then we go, but that wasn't the case with him. What's interesting with him is his whole left ankle was completely inverted in. So when you invert, and his wife was there, and I had her stand behind. I said, turn your left ankle all the way out. What happens to his hip? And he turned on me. She goes, oh my God, his hips are straight. I'm like, so in his case, I believe that the root of that issue for him is his ankle. And he goes, I did a major sprain when I was like 18, 19. What happens with big sprains is this, they'll heal, but as they're healing, the body will often shift the weight to the other side. And it's not like the body shifts it back automatically. So like these root issues are challenging. Like I said, if you saw me in person, which good luck trying. It's tough. I'm booked out and I only see people a day a week. But the point is I make with all this, statistically, that person, they would start in the back in the core program if I didn't assist them. And he's going to do better in there because those core muscles are super strong. And by creating better alignment in the back, his hip will feel better. But like, underneath which rock is the gold? Is it underneath in the ankle and foot? Because I only have 5 real pots of gold. It's going to be in the back and the core, the hips and the glutes, shoulder and arm, head and neck, and the ankle foot. There's each person has probably a major pot. No, there's a lot of gold chips on the way. And the gold, it's like the game Zelda or whatever. You go and you meet the wizard and you get something. You're looking for the grand prize. It's there.
That's why your creative thing works, because you're constantly, everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone is different. But I get a little bored with statistically. Some people are like, you're a fucking walking statistic. It's boring for me. But the pot of gold, for each person out there, I'm always excited about where it is. Some people go, he would have discovered that in probably month 2 or 3. He began better and better a little bit. Nothing real great, but he'd been better. But that foot and ankle thing, if he did that, oh shit, there's your gold. So I build the program statistically to help you find the gold the fastest.
I was watching an interview where you were talking about breath and how that is a big impact. So where does that, where do you kind of link that into the whole?
10 years ago, I never even didn't even think about it. Didn't even think about it. I didn't even think it mattered. Now, this was 6 months ago, I was on the Mark and Kelly show. It's a national television show and millions of people watching. And I spent 60 hours planning for this thing. I go, okay, statistically, the people watching, back pain, of course, statistically is the number one. Statistically is this. It's an audience about 50 years old. Definitely back pain. What's the shotgun approach? And now where I am now, the first thing I taught them was breath. Because I now believe that thing has been I don't know what stock it'd be equivalent to. Not many nowadays. But that stock and breath has just gone straight up from being on the bottom of the list for me to all the way in the top. And it just shows about learning too. It's just the shit you learned 10 years ago. I'm how many people I'm how do I even help some of these people without the breath? But so in the last 10 years, I've gone hard into free diving. So I'm a free diver. So breath hold. I got a 5.5 minute breath hold. I can go down to 100 feet on no oxygen tanks, just the air on the surface. And I hunt down there. And so there's nobody that knows breath like free divers, because the reason is because if you don't, you die. You just die. There's no injuries in free diving. You just live or you die. It's just one or the other. So I learned so much about that. And I worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit and worked with a player from there. And it's I kind of showed them the breath and they were amazed by it. So I kind of got affirmation along the way. And then I started doing, last year I went to Wim Hof and I did training with him in Poland. And, but the breath has just become, in my opinion, it's the holy grail shotgun. Meaning I don't care what the fuck your pain is. You get your breathing right, you're going to feel better. Because worst case scenario, you're just going to get yourself high as shit off of oxygen. Yeah. You're just going to that's worst case. But you're going to get, but the breath, and especially the moveu core brace, and let me try to explain that, at least from a functional, just the pure functional aspect of this thing, is your breathing muscles, your primary breathing muscles. Okay, let's get rid of all of your riblet muscles up here. Let's kind of rule those out. They're there, they expand, but you've got your diaphragm. So when you inhale, your diaphragm moves down. As your diaphragm goes down, your pelvic floor goes down with it. Now, when you exhale fully, your transverse abdominis, your natural corset muscle around, it's the most overlooked muscle. We were in New York City 5 months ago. I had the core, the transverse abdominis. We were in Times Square. I had the transverse abdominis painted on my wife, Katie, and we offered $100 to anybody who could name that muscle. And you know what? Somebody got it and we gave them 100 and then we watched the video and they cheated. They had their phone. So sad. But then I saw someone go, hey, your moveu. I'm like, what up? I'm like, what muscle is this for 20 minutes? He goes, transverse abdominis. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Hallelujah. Oh, the ups and downs. But the point is that people don't know that muscle. It's underneath the abs. That muscle, when you fully exhale, that is the muscle that causes the full exhalation. That muscle constricts around like a weight belt, cinching. That cinching pushes your diaphragm up, which makes your air go out your lungs. So that muscle alone, now when we talk about what the core brace is ultimately that center section between your pelvic floor and your diaphragm. So you can see the let's just say the muscularly or flabby part of your midsection right there. That is your core. So when your diaphragm, now, if you want to create, there's something called pressurizing. So your core is like a car tire, PSIs. You can hit a lot. Like my truck goes up to 65 PSI. If I'm doing a road trip, I put it at like 50. But if I'm off-road, I put it down about 8, right? 10. I think it's a little low on that thing, hit the rim. But so now, to get the most PSIs, which everyone needs to learn how to do, you want the most PSIs when you're lifting something heavy. But sometimes you don't want too much PSIs because if too much PSIs, you got things like hemorrhoids and hernias, but you don't have enough PSIs. Now you got joint issues, disc issues. So there's a combination. But for the most part, you need to learn how to where that dimmer switch is. It's a dimmer switch on a light. So maximum dimmer switch when you're lifting something heavy, low dimmer switch during low activities. So to create that high dim switch, first of all, you need to learn how to breathe. You need to breathe from your diaphragm. So when you take a breath in, you should look down and see your belly moving out. So 10%, 20% of you can't even do that. So you're not going to be able to, you're never going to have strong. You'll see people having this 6-pack abs and they bloat it. It looks like there's a 6-pack over a fucking beach ball. Like that ain't abs. That's a weak TVA. So now, when you can breathe in through your diaphragm, you see your stomach coming out. The next step then is to learn how to, we call it a snap technique, which is where you snap your belly button, pulling it back like you're sucking in for a photo. That'll activate 22% of the TVA. It's a little, but pulling that back is the next step. We call it snap technique. Then it's going to be the full diaphragm inhale, and then hold your breath in, and then snap back without exhaling. So basically now what you've done is your diaphragm's gone down and you pull back. You've created the most PSIs in your, which is your natural back brace in its tightest position. So then to depressurize that area is to hold the snap technique, but fully exhale. Now your PSIs are down to like 10, but they're controlled still by the constant contraction of TVA. This is called pressurizing, depressurizing. I believe it's the number one. Like, if I could just teach one thing, it's either that or teaching pelvic tilt. If I could teach that combined with pelvic tilt, God, the amount of people walking in, I would think 80% of pain management doctors, PTs, I would think they'd have to find new careers if people learn how to do that.
How do you think that the fact that a lot of people, I was reading it today online, the amount of people that are overweight and obese now is just continues to increase. How do people that are overweight, which means they've got big bellies, and you talk about one of the most important things for people in terms of their back pain and pain generally, like how, if you've got this big belly and does that affect this core, your breathing, and is that in itself compounding the problem?
Yeah. So you've got, well, first of all, I had remind me of a patient. I had like an overweight Mexican gentleman, like about 4 months ago, as a patient. Huge stomach on him, right? Showed me his x-rays. He has a fracture of his L5S1. So it's called spondylolisthesis. What it is spondylolisthesis means there was so much pressure on a joint that the joint actually fractures itself. It's super common amongst high school athletes because when you're young, in your teens, what happens is you've got growth plates around those joints. And if those growth plates aren't fused and you are in hyperextension, or have an hyperextension injury, you can fracture that growth plate. It basically causes the vertebra above it to shear forward, but it puts a massive anterior tilt on that person. Pretty much, I want to say it does it for life. I'm not saying that you have to accept that. I'm saying you need to fight it for life, but it puts you in that position for compromise for life. There's also degenerative spondylolisthesis, which is whenever basically it didn't happen as a kid, but now you have so much weight on the joint that it just snaps. And that's what he had. So he's like 6 years old, one snapped on his back and he had a huge stomach. And the truth with him is this, is like, he doesn't have to lose the weight, but he's going to have to double the strength. If his core, let's say, had to go from let's say it's a 0 right now. Let's say he only needed to get to a level 30. He's got to get to level 80 just to have enough strength and endurance to combat that stomach. You don't need to lose the weight. You can double, triple up on the muscle mass and awareness and really get that endurance to fight and hold that thing, because what the stomach does is the stomach is going to pull the person. The way the stomach's going to pull them forward. And what it does is it causes the rib to pull up and the hips to go into anterior tilt, just like a pregnant woman. Pregnant women almost always, it just throws them forward, weight shift forward into massive anterior tilt, and they get SI joint pain. It's just like, it is the same thing as what happens with somebody who's overweight, like a guy that holds weight in his stomach. So the point is that weight will put something. Here's the thing. I'm not saying to do this, but aside from the breathing, if somebody had a flat back, like let's say they have completely flat back, they got disc herniations, if they put on 60 pounds in their stomach, it would give them a curve and likely help the disc, but it's going to create other issues. Yeah. It'll pull their spine out of that flex position into extended. So the point is that the weight, of course, weight's no good. But I don't recommend people initially to focus on losing weight. It's a lot. You're going to get much better progress by still doing the muscle activation and getting the body alignment. You're going to feel better faster doing that. Because so many people, first of all, I don't know how to help people lose fucking weight. It's not what I do. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I just had a peanut butter cookie. I was thinking it was so good before this. Beside the point. But you can stay overweight. But just know you're going to need to have twice the amount of endurance, positional presence that you would have to need if you were thin. And also
whatever happens, you really need to focus on that strengthening.
Activation first.
Regardless of anything else.
I really think activation is first, because you can't, if I tell people, people are like, I need strong transverse abdominals, like, you don't even know where the fuck muscle is. How do you strengthen something? You don't even know how it works. Right. People do not know how muscles work. They, for the most part, shotgun approach, they don't even know how it works. So to activate it first, I really believe you need to know, kind of understand what the muscle looks like. Starts here, ends here. That's why I do anatomy art. This is what it looks like. When it contracts, it does this. Now let's get yours contracted. And so when you can actively contract it, now you've said to being able to activate it. After you activate it, now you can effectively strengthen it. People try to jump into strength, but you can't strengthen something you don't even know how it works.
Right. And that's that awareness part that, or
yeah, sure.
Other words, awareness or, okay.
That'd be activation.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna do a few sort of quicker questions potentially, just as we sort of wrap things up.
This is fun. These are good questions.
I wanted to find out, like sleeping. This is a thing we do a lot, and I understood. I'm probably, from what I've been told, I don't sleep in the best position. I sleep on my front, kind of to my side, my neck over, and been told that's not great. But are there any general hygiene tips around sleeping? And if so, what are they?
So good. You know, that's the topic of sleep. So my buddy, I'm actually gonna call him after this. Like I have a whole, and anybody out there who's really like into sleeping, not into it, but you actually have manufacturing set up. You've done pillows, you've done beds, you've done wedges. Find me, shoot me a message, because I have an entire concept. And well, the concept's called wedgecation. Wedgecation, it means it's using wedges, whether it's wedges or pillows, or to properly wedge yourself into comfortable yet ergonomic posture when you sit, when you sleep, when you're in a boat, when you're in a plane, when you're in a car. Like there's ways to use pillows and wedges to properly not only align yourself, but get yourself so comfortable that you sleep throughout the night without moving. Now, regarding sleep, all of our sleep videos always crush it. People are fascinated with sleep. Here's the advice I can give you sleeping. Well, first of all, we're gonna have a video being released. You guys just scroll back on our Instagram too. Before I get into sleep, I've been fascinating with wedging and angles, and we're creating a company called Puzzle, your missing night to a good night's sleep. Pillow kits to help wedge and this and that. And we had a manufacturer, I have dozens of prototypes. Find this angle goes here, this pillow goes here. And like, I love it. I've been doing this for like 15, 20 years. Here's what I can tell you about this. The number one thing people can do to sleep better is use more pillows. Number one. Okay. Then you go, what do I do with pillows? I put all 6 underneath my head? No. Okay. So most common, I'm a side sleeper, so I always start with side sleeping. Back sleeping is definitely the most like ergonomic in the body because you really don't need too much. Side sleeping requires the most pillows to sleep right. Here's what I tell you with side sleeping, and you guys just trust me on this. When you do this one, once you do this, you got to take about 2-3 weeks to get comfortable with all these pillows. But once you do, every hotel you go to, you're gonna be like, I need 6 pillows in my fucking bed. It makes it almost impossible to sleep anywhere else. So, side sleeper. You need a pillow, of course, underneath your head on your side, but it shouldn't be so thick that your head's sideways, and it shouldn't be so thin that your head is almost on the mat. It should be your neck should be in alignment on the side. And so, rule is this: the firmer the mattress, thicker pillow you need. The softer the mattress, the more your shoulder sinks in, the thinner pillow you need. Right? Think about if you slept on concrete. You're going to need a pillow that's compressed 4 inches, which you can sleep comfortably on concrete if you're wedgified properly. So you got your head pillow. Next is going to be, in order of importance, I'd say next would be the hug pillow. So that hug pillow on your side is basically where, because if you're on your side, your arm's draping across your body. And so your shoulder's in a compressed position. The hug pillow is one where you throw your arm. The hug pillow is going to be your softest pillow. Down feather primarily, just super soft, not a king size, standard size pillow. Super plush. Hug pillow. And it allows you to kind of lean into it a little bit too. Because when you're side sleep, you don't want to sleep directly on your side. You either want to lean back partially on your back or lean forward partially on your side. Next pillow is the knee pillow. That's going to be your thickest pillow. Super thick pillow between your knees. Then comes my favorite pillow. It's called the wedgie. The wedgie is a medium pillow, and it wedges behind your back. So you can lean back onto it a little bit. Not so far back that you're on your back, but not that you're just directly on your side. So now you got this hug pillow. You got this back wedgie. This is way much easier with the video. But we make videos on all this shit, by the way. Okay. This is the first time I've ever explained audio and video. Well, I guess some audio.
We got some pillows there we can get there.
So you got the wedgie behind the back, you got the knee pillow, you got the hug pillow. Now there's another one though. When you're laying like this, often the arm, if you're on your side, the arm is straight, and that creates elbow issues, discomfort. And so you want the wristy. And the wristy is just basically a little pillow goes underneath the wrist to take the straightness out of the elbow. You guys do that and commit to that pillow for 2 weeks. You're gonna sleep better than you have in 10 years, 15 years. Some people go, I toss and turn. I'm like, you toss, I see the people who toss and turn. You sleep with one thin pillow. Your body's like, fuck you every 45 minutes. And you sleep, your body's like, I hate this. Of course. I can't believe you sleep for 45 minutes without waking up. So here's the thing, if you got a spouse or a significant other, whatever the hell it is nowadays, what it is it's the same amount of pillows. But now, like my wife, I'm sleeping on my side, instead of me getting the hug pillow, my wife has the hug pillow. So I reach over my wife and then I got the hug pillow. So they're still the same pillows. It's still a 4, 5. Now, on your back, pretty simple. Thinnest pillow underneath your neck. Even if some of you shouldn't even use a pillow, especially if you have a soft mattress. But just maybe even the thinnest pillow that you can get underneath your neck. Then, the knees, usually when you're on your back, especially on a firm mattress, if you lay on your back, it flips your body into anterior tilt. Big tilt, a low and comfortable back. The firmer the mattress, the more cushion you need under your knees. If you have a super firm mattress, you should have a yoga block under your knees. If you have a soft mattress, like still a thick pillow under your knees, it takes about 10 degrees of thigh flexion before the pelvis even changes position. So the first 10 is irrelevant. You need to go up at least 10 to even change the position of your back. And then sometimes if you're on your back, you can have a couple of pillows underneath your wrists, like 2, one on each side of you. Now the stomach's sleeping. The worst out of all of them. That's basically like turning your neck to the left for 8 hours straight.
That's me.
Okay, but now there's a way to get out of them. Let's just say you're in your stomach and your head's turned left. Okay, now what you're gonna do is this. Your goal is to try to reduce that rotation of your neck. You don't do it you do it by prying up the same side of your body. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna be in your stomach, and you've got now 2 pillows. You got one underneath your hip and thigh, and one underneath your shoulder.
That makes sense.
It
Yeah.
pries you up a little bit, and it also takes the crank out of your neck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
And then it allows, and if you sleep on it, you shove that pillow aside, and it allows you to turn a little bit more on the side, almost for stomach sleepers. I'd like to make a pillow a little more of a wedge, so your face can go down the wedge. And then sometimes people actually on the stomach like a pillow underneath the feet so the knees aren't straight. Because this gets, guys, if your arm is like something locked out, you're gonna be uncomfortable in the middle of the night. Whether you know it or not, you're gonna toss and turn. Those are sleeping positions are fucking gold. You guys switch to that thing, you'll think of me every single time you cozy up on that bed for the rest of your life, and you'll thank me. You'll thank Dr. Mike, and you'll say, thanks for helping me fix my shit.
Sitting. This is something that we do a lot. We're here now. I'm conscious as you're talking to me about some of the stuff you're saying. What is some of the advice around it? I know ideally you probably want to be standing as much as possible, but when you do have to sit in a car, on a plane, train, office, whatever, like what do you recommend? Some good hygiene around maximizing
Hands
that.
down, everybody put a lumbar support underneath your back. Hands down.
And what is that, like a wedge behind your back?
It's just a small pillow. You can get a thin pillow. You can roll it up. You can get a towel and roll it up. Myself, I have these little like throw pillows that are like thin. Myself, I travel with, it depends on what I travel with. I travel, what do I use for my lumbar support recently? I take a pillow. So I actually use my buddy Derek. He owns a company called Sleepgram. I really like the company. They have they're adjustable pillows. So basically you buy the pillow and then you can take out the inserts and adjust it. I use one of the inserts and I travel with the insert. I roll the insert up and I put the insert in my low back. Always, if you guys are driving, crank your lumbar support maximum. The biggest thing is you guys flip yourself into this flex position. But you don't want too much lumbar extension, but all of you, I don't want to say all, nearly every one of you, need some lumbar, sustained lumbar. Now, here's the thing with sitting. So you got your lumbar support almost always. When you fly, this is one that I see nobody doing, is your ass hurts when you fly. Like the seats, because the seats are flat, all right? And so what happens is your ass is trying to shift forward when you're sitting. It's sliding forward. Guys, you feel the pants coming up to your balls. You're always undoing this thing on the flight. Okay, women, going up other cracks. So to stop that, what you need to do is you need to put something, you need to lift your legs up in the air, and you've got to put a pillow or a shirt or a sweater. I've got a pillow for it. Actually, I love the pillow that my buddy Derek makes. It's called I love it. It's just a little thick to travel, but I do travel with it. Shit, what does he call it? It's called a knee pillow on Sleepgram. Basically, it's a cushion. It goes underneath your thighs, but it like wedges up to your sit bones. Oh my God. And then you relax. It's unbelievable how that distributes the weight, how much better distributes the weight on your butt.
So what is it like? Is it like an angle that is higher under your knee and goes down at the back?
This one I'm talking about now, you can use like sweaters and stuff, but I love this one. It's a knee pillow. So it's basically, how can I describe it? If you take a rectangle, but the top of it, it's got a swoop, but it folds out into two. So it basically fits your thighs.
Right, I'm with you.
But like I said, you can just get like a thicker towel or whatever you got on a plane. But you can use a thin pillow with this one.
And what's that doing? Lifting your legs up a little bit?
You want to lift them and shove it underneath there.
Okay.
So basically when you sit, then you want to sit all the way back in the chair, in the car or in the boat, and you want to sit back, and then you want to allow yourself to slide forward, but literally butt into that cushion.
Right.
That is going to distribute your weight so much better. You combine that with the lumbar support. But remember, the body's not meant to be in any of these positions for long. There was this whole study, and it was like these, it was years ago. What they did was they made these like F-16 fighter pilots. They spent millions and millions of dollars contouring these seats, like these super contoured seats for these pilots where it was like perfect form fitting, and they fucking hated it. It's because it froze them in a position. It froze them there. No matter what, the body is still meant to move. Like, so if you guys are sitting for, maybe now you can go from sitting from 10 minutes to 50. Your body's still meant to move. So it's still meant to add a little lumbar support, add a little pelvic tilt, stand up. And for you guys, when you go to restaurants, you want your legs as close to straight as possible. Like bar stools. Bar stools are only really good though if you got a footrest in front of you. If your feet are dangling, it's still not, it's not good either. But like the straighter your legs are, you just don't want your knees. You don't want, if your knees are pulled up your chest, I'm 6'4". So I'm always trying to find high stooled things to sit on because I want my legs straight and I want my legs, you kind of want them straight as possible at all times. So sitting on a boat, in a car, on a couch, get that lumbar support. Even a couch, if you're leaning back, more lumbar support. You'll be amazed with how well that you do with that.
When you wake up in the morning, is there any, or well, is either beginning or end of the day, but are there any things that you would, just very simple things that we should think about in terms of our posture and in relation to some of the things we're talking about today? Like, would you, do you do any kind of like movements or stretching or anything like that before you start your day?
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. So because your day is all in front of you in the morning, the best time for you to warm up the muscles for the day is in the morning because you're setting yourself up. You're activating them for the day. Myself personally, I do cold immersion every morning. I jump in my fucking cold plunge, and I'm miserable every day doing it. I don't want to do it any day. No days I want to do it. It was raining yesterday. I just stood and looked at it and got in. But here's what happens. I get out of my cold, and I'm cold. So then I do my 15 minutes every day to warm myself up. But I didn't start doing that routine until I started the cold. I didn't go like movement, then cold. I get cold, then I want to get warm. So the cold created a habit. And so then for me, what I recommend, and for most of you is this, I recommend that you do, time flies too when you do this. 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. You can even put a timer for at least 5 minutes. And that's gonna be your time to activate the main muscles of the body. And so if you want to let me just talk about gross movements, just overall movements, like real simple. Remember, your body pushes, it pulls, it lunges, it hinges, it squats, and it lunges. So for those of you guys that feel pretty good, just hit your 7 functional movements, right? You get some lunges in place. And look, I'm not getting very specific here. I will in a moment. But you get push-ups, you get some pulls in there. You get your, remember your core is the center of all of them. So core will be, you can add a plank in there. If you're doing like slow push-ups, you're planking as you're pushing up. You've got your lunges, you got your hip hinges, which are gonna be hinging. I always recommend you guys use a mirror. Always get a full mirror. I mean, one of the biggest downfalls I think with CrossFit is there's no fucking mirror. You don't even know what the fuck you look like. You're looking like your back's looking like you're breaking half, but you can't even tell. Get a mirror on Amazon. I get that mirror out every morning and I set it up. My wife makes fun of me. I'm standing there in my boxer shorts. My dick has shrunk into the smallest it's ever been because I just got out of the cold. I hope no one walks by me. And I watch myself with almost no clothes do it. And here's the thing, guys. Some of you guys don't like how you look. I promise though, when you just look at yourself in the mirror for long enough, you're gonna see past what you don't like and you start seeing things that you can improve on. So you got your squats and lunges. Now, the next level of that is knowing. Like for example, my head, because I wrote for 12 years, if you look at my head, it wants to shift all the way to the right. So I stand in that mirror and I move my neck the other way. My right ankle is very weak, it inverts very weakly. So I get my ankle inversions. Now I do those before I do my 7 movements. I tune my ankle inversions in. I also have this S shape in my spine, this like kyphosis, lordosis. So I turn sideways in the mirror, get my trend. I try to flatten my spine. So basically I'm working on about 5-6 minutes of my own personal misalignments and tuning those up for the day. And then I'll do my 7 movements and implement what I've just warmed up with into those 7. And guys, you'll be so amazed with how you feel. If you did the cold and then you do that, you guys, it will change how you feel for your whole day. It feels so good. You don't want to miss any days. It's been one of the best additions to my health in the last year and a half.
Do you do anything for your hamstrings? I notice as I've got older, like it always seems to be a part that gets tight and it always seems to be something that I feel puts a little bit of pressure on my lower back. So when you're doing those key movements, and I know you said the major muscle groups, but how do you factor in tightness of hamstrings, which seems to be something quite common?
So when someone says tight hamstrings, now remember statistically, what I hear is lack of hip hinge. because I remember, I couldn't find it recently, but I read a study years ago and I couldn't find it. It was from the McKinsey Institute. They're the leaders, and I don't know if they still are, but they were the leaders in back pain research. And what they found was that we hip hinge on average of 3,000 times a day. I go, I know. I couldn't find a study recently though. So I'm like, did I dream that up? But I didn't. I remember making videos on it. I remember having it. A hip hinge, I'm not saying full hip hinge, but even a little bit to a degree. And so with tight hamstrings, what I generally see with tight hamstrings is that people not fully utilizing their hip hinge.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe only hinging halfway and then folding the other half from their back. So with tight hamstrings, you can stretch your hamstrings all you want, but if we're hip hinging a few thousand times a day, that's the time for you when you tie your shoes, and so like what I'm hearing right off the bat, statistically, I'm hearing what I'd recommend without even seeing you move. I'd say in your morning routine, double leg, hip hinges, watch yourself in the mirror, make sure you keep your back neutral curve, hinge all the way down so you feel on your hamstrings. Hold it. Go down more. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Now single leg RDLs, same thing. Make sure you maintain that neutral curve. Really hinge to get that hamstring so incredibly lengthened as much as you can. Then even do some straight toe touches in the day. And then as you're doing those warm-ups, envision yourself, and now throughout the day, when you tie your shoes, every time you brush your teeth, hinge forward until you feel your hamstrings lengthen to brush it. When you spit the water out, whatever you use that hip hinge throughout the day.
And is that because what we're doing, and I notice this myself now, and I've been more aware or conscious, as you've said, but is that because most of the time we just roll over when we do that, and that is creating issues with the back?
That's disc.
Right.
That's a subset of people. So when you say there is a group of people that does that, I mostly find that those are the people who hip hinge, and I kind of looked at your posture a little bit, but the people who have tight hamstrings mostly are this. They have a flat ass. They don't have ass. You look like you've got a fucking ass on you. So yours might be a little bit different, but then again, they have flat butt, no butt. They've had disc bulges, herniations, sciatic. Like that's because of this, because the hip hinge, like this whole methodology I put together, it's built around the 7 functional moves. Our whole hip and glute program is the hip hinge. That whole program. There's level 1, level 2, level 3. There's about 80 exercises. They're all progressive. They start on your hands and knees, safer than tying your shoes, walking miles. And the entire program is focused on the hip hinge. Like right off the bat, what you just told me, I'd be like, go to the hip and glute program. So, and I'll hook you up with it afterwards if you want. If you'd use it, I'll give it to you, it's fine. But usually, I don't know why, but some point in life, we either didn't develop the hip hinge, these people didn't develop it, or they lost it. So the hip hinge is the ability for you to hinge forward from your torso, spinning your upper body on the largest ball and socket joint in the body, which is your hip joint. It's the largest ball and socket joint for a reason. It's designed to be used the most. It's the largest. It's designed to be used. And so the hip hinge is the ability for you to hinge not only your upper body, but hinge your hips forward like a hinge on that ball and socket joint, and then to rehinge it back upwards. The glutes are what pulls it back up. Usually these people with these tight hamstrings also have weak glutes, because think about it, if you're only half hinging down, you're only half hinging back up with your glutes. So it's not a full range. So I would like, for someone like that, I'd be like, start with doing those hip hinges, turn sideways in a mirror. Best exercise I know for hip hinge is head back crack. You get a broomstick, you put on your head, your middle back,
I watched that on your video. Yeah.
It's so good. I did that on Mark and Kelly's show. It's just one of the top ones. So that one right there is those movement patterns that have deficiencies. We can predict statistically what will happen in the long run. And some people are like, that's fear mongering. I'm like, it's fear mongering to tell you statistically what will likely happen. Should I not share this? Are you not an adult and you can't handle the fucking truth about what this could lead to if you don't? Do you want me just to not tell you to not hurt your feelies? Fuck that. Tell you this. If you're not hip hinging, you're bending from your back. And if you're bending from your back, you're overcompressing your disc to your back. That's what's happening. You overcompress your disc to your back. There's genetical influences on that. There's hydration influences on that, but you shouldn't be overcompressing your discs. You overcompress them. It starts off with something called an annular tear, which is an annular tear is the warning sign of a disc bulging, is a disc herniating. Annular tear is usually a sharp pain directly in the middle of the back. It's a quick stab. It can be confused with joint pain, which is a sharp stab. The difference is annular pain comes with usually bending. Sharp pain with bending in the middle of the back annular. That means what's happening is this part of that disc is starting to rip. It'll slowly rip like a piece of paper, like tear the corner. And if it keeps ripping and it rips through the whole piece of paper, now the jelly comes out the donut, hits that nerve, and that nerve goes on the leg, and that's called sciatica. So this is the like predictable outcomes of. I'm most impressed if people don't get this. If they do, I'm like, of course you did. But these are the things that, and you can always improve these things. I don't give a shit if you just have the annular tear or you fucking ruptured in 3 surgeries. You still need to fix your shit.
Right.
There's no excuses not to, ever.
Well, my final question then is, escape your limits is about escaping what you've believed is impossible and gone to make possible. What would be a memorable example of escaping your personal limits?
I do think that the memorable example would be the one that instantly came to my mind would be the transition from being a sports chiropractor to being whatever the fuck I am now. I don't even know what it is that I am now. But that transition from going like from local business to like bigger stage, bigger audience, bigger stakes, bigger responsibilities, like that leap was the escape. That was one of my big jumps. I don't believe it. I believe there's more ahead of me. But what I could tell you is that like it was like, for me, it took years of frustration and accumulation of knowledge and belief to boil it to that burst. But I believe that like everybody has that burst in them. It's possible for everybody has it in them if you're in the right place. Albert Einstein, what did he say? He goes, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, he'll live his whole life feeling stupid. And it's like, you got to know thyself. Like, what is that path for you? And what is that burst? I tend to help people. I like to help people burst through pain into an active life free from pain.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Mike, I appreciate your time.
Matthew.
We do need to do a part 2. Thank you very much.
I'd love to.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Really, I really appreciate reaching out, having me in here, and hopefully your audience resonates with the message. And I'm grateful to be here. And I had a great time.
Great. Thank you.
you. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you've got any value from it whatsoever, then please do us a favor, like, subscribe, tell somebody, and that will help us to be able to continue to do more of these and help you escape your own personal limits. Thanks for listening.